we had to deal with the case. It was incredible, absolutely incredible. 5.5 months a dispute raged, and it involved the court service, the court clerks in this particular city. And essentially they pretty much went on strike, and it was all about weekend working. And everything was quite normal and quite orderly, and negotiations and talks were going on, when suddenly, for no apparent reason, the whole thing broke down. Everything went to hell in a handbasket, as they would say in America. And we were brought in to try and find out if this could be resolved. And we started to unravel it. And interestingly, whenever we started to pick it apart, we found that one of the court clerks lived about 35 miles away from the city. And Monday to Friday, she carpooled with a neighbour, drove to work. She didn't have a car, she couldn't drive. So on Saturdays, for her to get to work on weekends, would have meant a 2.25 hour bus ride through 3 different cities to actually get to where she was going. So 2.25 hours there, 2.25 hours back to work for 3 hours. She felt she couldn't do it. And she said so to her supervisor, not in an aggressive way. But that was passed on to another supervisor, and then on to another supervisor, and on to a manager. And by the time it got to the boss, the word couldn't had become wouldn't. And that was a declaration of war to the manager, who said, right, we'll see who's boss here. And immediately battle lines were drawn. And that dispute went, I mean, I'm sure you remember this.
Yeah, sure.
This went to depths you wouldn't believe. I mean, for example, in the particular city, they had a live televised council meeting. And this group of court clerks stormed the council meeting and attacked the judge, the chief judge of the city. It was amazing. All because of that one simple misperception and the way it was interpreted by the person who was the boss.
And again, because people then gain momentum. So by saying wouldn't, by imposing couldn't to wouldn't, then the rest of the people who were perhaps making sacrifice to come in on the weekend thought, hold on, if she won't, I'm not going to either. And so suddenly this thing snowballed into a much, much bigger problem, completely out of control.
And it lasted for 5.5 months. And we came in and it got resolved within 3 days. And now, not only did it get resolved, but the relationships were put back together again.
That's the thing. I think in Arizona, it's hard to conceive here when you have a wonderful public transit system. Arizona is a desert, you know, literally. And so you can't dig like you have here. You have the underground. You don't have any such thing. You've got just the above ground public transit system, which has multiple stops. Because Arizona, Phoenix area is built up with all these small cities. So this woman wasn't exaggerating. Literally, she would have had to have gotten up at 4 o'clock in the morning to have made it to work.
Something like that, and go through 3 different cities.
And then not be home until midnight.
It's a remarkable thing. Mad. All because couldn't became wouldn't. Hard to believe that, but it's true. You can have a variety of elements that cause conflict. And one of the things, I want to start that again. You can have a variety of things that cause conflict to build. And as mediators, when we come in to look at a conflict into a dispute of some sort, we tend to look for clues. And funnily enough, I remember Nancy, just not so very long ago, when we were involved in a dispute, there was a recurrent theme.
Oh, right. I remember this. Yeah, it was really interesting. We were in a city department. I think it was an engineering firm, in fact, wasn't it? And what we found was the HR department calls us in, and they wanted us to deal with an ongoing problem within a particular department that was run by an engineer. And as they were describing it to us, they used an unusual kind of grouping of words. They said that she had, during a staff meeting, pulled her hair and gnashed her
teeth, yeah.
And then what you do in a mediation is then you go to the other parties who are also part of the dispute, and you find out independently, each one of them needs to tell you privately what their perception of the problem is. Each one of them said pulling hair, gnashing teeth.
And gnashing their teeth. I've gone through my lifetime and I've never heard the expression gnashing their teeth, but yet we heard it 4 times in the first half.
Told us,
so that told us something.
Yeah, I mean, that was a serious thing it told us, really. It's telling us one thing, is that people talk about a conflict. They don't keep it to themselves. So what are they doing? They're trying to gain support. They're getting momentum, for their case. Additionally, what it's telling us is that if there is a misperception, it's being shared. So choice of words could be a misperception, or it could be that someone else has influenced another person and now they're on board with this misperception. So it told us quite a bit. It told us that we had some work to do.